All right, we got Miss Phoebe's here. She acts silly, like she's scared. But 2 seconds ago, she was walking around and wagging her tail and happy to see me. And we were sitting up front together. And I was giving her some kisses before I brought her back to get the work started. So I'm going to do a pre-groom, and that's going to be brushing her out, making sure she has no tangles. I will do her nails, her paw pads, and sanitary for this part of the groom. She's getting to be an old lady now. Makes me sad. She had a mammary tumor that had to be removed. Her parents are super nice people. Really, really like them. And they take the best care of her. Yeah, I've been doing her for a long time. I wish I remembered how many years, but it's been a while. She's got a lot of built up eye crust. That's okay. That'll come off in the tubs. Sometimes you can clipper that away before the bath, but sometimes you'll run into occasions where it's just better to go ahead and get it removed in the wash and then trim up that area afterward. That's what we're going to do. So I have different blades for my 5-in-1. I have my dirty blade. That's whenever they first come in and they have not so clean feet and areas to trim, so I'll use it first. And then after the bath, I switch it out to the clean blade, which only touches 100% clean dogs and doesn't dull as fast. And so basically it's a rotating thing. I'll put, eventually the dirty blade will just become so dull, it won't cut no more. So I'll switch out the clean blade for the dirty blade, and then I'll get another blade. Oftentimes it's hard to find a sharpener that will sharpen the 5-in-1 blades. I guess it's just a little bit more detailed and difficult to service them. So usually it's, you have it for however many months and then you have to buy another one. And I could, in theory, not do this before the bath. I could do it after the bath. But the reason I do it before the bath is because if the dog has really, really fuzzy feet, if you leave that there, it's going to be harder to dry the feet, and it just takes longer. So that's why I do it before the bath. And then I'll have to follow up again after the bath because hairs will pop down that weren't visible to begin with. So if you notice here, she's missing her other side of nipples because that's where the tumor was that they had to remove. But she's so cute and it's okay. She's healthy and safe, and that's all that matters. You don't have to have all those nipples. She's still got plenty left. And if she didn't have any left, that would be okay too. My grandmother, great-grandmother, had to have a double mastectomy for breast cancer, so That runs in the family, unfortunately. Something we have to keep in the back of our head and get checked for. And I'm knocking on the door to the age where it's time to start getting checked. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm hoping that they have come up with new ideas of scanning instead of pinching your boob in between two pieces of metal or whatever it is. Hiccup tight, as my grandfather would say. He would be at a loss for what to say after I had one hiccup, because that's usually all I have is one random, loud, obnoxious hiccup, and then that's it. And so some people would get it confused for a sneeze and say, bless you, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it wasn't a sneeze, it was a hiccup. And so he was in a position to try to find a phrase that would fit, so hiccup type, that's it. Cleaning them little ear holes, and then we'll go to the tub. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna load up my phone, and let's go. Time to get in the bath. See you later. Okay, now it's time to finish my fees. See, I told her she was wagging her tail. I wag her tail. Now she's gonna get all low crouchy. And she know it's time to work again. Yeah, we're not just doing a brush and bath today, honey girl. We're gonna be doing it all over body cut. Just doing a really quick brush out. And then I'm going to do a big back brush, and then we're going to go ahead and start clipping. Alright. Okay. Yeah, we're going to start, we're going to get started. Alright, so she's getting the 5 all over. And for those who need to know, it's 6.3 millimeter. Should go with the grain. Long strokes. Don't forget, you can go back over, don't freak out. If you miss something, it's okay, you can go back over it. brush. Go over it again. Break this down into quadrants. There's a tendon here that if you push, I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but if you push like that, that hair that's right there will fluff up, so you can actually trim it. Otherwise, there's just going to be a really fluffy area there. You'll have to come back later with scissors, but it's easier to do it with clippers that way. But be careful not to press too hard or come in at a bad angle, because then you're going to accidentally cut into that very thin, piece of hair, skin. Brush out and back brush, and do it again just like I did on that side. Sometimes it's okay if they sit down and work on other areas. If it's not a pressing time for them to sit or to have to stand, let them go ahead and sit, but there will be other times I have to have her standing. Who'd have thought you had so much hair on you, huh? This back brushing just makes the hairs that were sticking to the skin or laying down or whatever reason, it makes them puff up, and then you can catch them with your clipper. And remember, back brushing is the best thing to do for this, because if you brush with the grain, you're just going to knock those hairs down, and then you're still not going to be able to catch them if you're trying to make an even cut. Alright, so the majority of her body part is done, but let's work at her neck and her legs. certain angles on the throat. Some blades will cut the skin on the throat, and then you're going to cut the dog's throat. I know that's graphic and sounds horrible, but it's true. Some dogs have very thin skin, and the blade of the blade might not catch the skin, but the little pokey spots, the stuff that combs the hair and the hair goes in between, that'll stab the skin and open it up. So to prevent that from happening, what you can do is the X. So you're going from side to side, and you're catching the hairs that way instead of coming straight in on it. The only reason I do that with her is because I know her. She's not going to jerk. She's not going to move around. And at this point in her life, her skin, even though she's an older dog, her skin isn't that fragile yet, so I don't have that fear. Here's another thing where you can go wrong, is coming down the front of the leg. If you're not careful, you can cut the skin right here in the edge of the armpit. So just skim over that as best as you can. And you can always come back and scissor or come through with a different blade and raise the arm up like this. See, like right here, if you do like that, it's safer. She's not a big fan of her feet being done. So I'm going to brush up the bottom half of the foot first. That's good enough. Don't forget about the skin manipulation. You can do that to bring up areas. Like if she was a dog who would not allow me to stand her up on her back legs, this would be how you would trim these areas safely. This right here is called the up tuck. It can get stuck in a blade really quick and cut. And because it's such a weird angle and everything, it's going to be hard to suture by the doctor, so they're likely going to leave it open and super glue it. Now don't worry if you see a bunch of sticky outies still, because you're going to come back behind and scissor everything. So just get as good as you can and keep it on. Don't get caught up on something stuck and then you're running behind when you're running. I back brush twice as a rule and no more, because if there's still stuff sticking out after the second back brush, then the clipper probably will never catch that, and it's just better to let the shears do that work. So she's passive aggressive, so she's pulling her leg and manipulating her body and doing all these little things to try to pull away, because she's just not a fan of it, and that's okay. You just gotta have to work around it. Just be firm, but don't pull too hard on their legs. Dogs, you would think, would know, hey, If I keep pulling, I'm going to end up breaking something. They don't care. They're going to pull and pull and pull and pull. Alright, so she was pulling a lot for me doing this leg, so what I like to do is come onto the inside and do like that. And go with the angles of the skin. There are no sticky outy skin pieces that I'm catching like that. And you see how I successfully trim that out. I'm going to take a 10 blade and go into her armpits because that's the safest blade to use in those areas. You can accidentally cut an armpit very quickly and not even know it happened. A lot of the times, the dogs don't even make a peep. You'll just be working on the dog and then you'll either notice it on your hand or somewhere, a little blood from the cut, and then you have to go investigate your dog and see where the hell it come from. Alright, I'm going to stand her up again and do her sanitary again. Whenever you're doing a short-haired cut like this, I go ahead and I take the 10 down the inside of the leg. And that's because it blends into the body that's on top. It's not going to be too noticeable. So you take and pick up a leg and skim down. You got areas like that little spot that I was mentioning earlier, you just push into it. So, see how much hair that was stuck in there? Other things you can do is angle your blade. You can angle it in very, very gently and catch those hairs too. Sometimes that's just not enough and you have to go back and physically push it. While she's turned this direction, I'm going to go ahead and show it this direction. So you just push inside and fluff that hair out. So you push inside, fluff that hair out. They have a spot up here that's like this, but not as severe. The dogs, they have this little bump right here on the back of the nail, back of the leg, It runs right next to that. And so what you do is you just skin manipulation. You pull the hair, the skin like that, and then you just go over it. If you're not comfortable doing that, you just take and fluff it out like that and then scissor it. Okay, so now all of this clipper work is done. Everything else is going to be scissoring as far as the 5 goes, but I'm going to run a guard comb across her head. And this is a 1 guard, which is a 1/2 inch. My go-to is usually the 1 or the 0 yard to set heads. If you're uncertain, start higher, because you can't put the hair back on, but you can take more on. So, start at the 0 and go down. Do the whole face before you make a decision on what you'd rather do. If you go in reverse here on the chin, that's going to help you with your scissoring. You're not going to have to do as much scissoring. Pull the ears up. Be careful when you do this because you can put your the edge of the guard comb in the ear canal accidentally. I've done that a couple of times. Nothing happened. They weren't injured, but just this could get stuck in there. It's not very comfortable for them. They'll be okay, but you don't want that to happen if you can prevent it. Usually I do this before the bath, but I neglected to do it. I set the ear, so like all this right here, I'm going to trim away. She doesn't have a whole lot of inner ear hair, so I don't usually pluck her hair unless it gets really bushy in there. Less is more when it comes to ear plucking. If you got a dog who has ears that automatically clean themselves, you do not have to do plucking. But if you have an ear that's full of brown and black and grossness like that, that ear is not self-cleaning, and so you're going to have to assist and pluck those hairs and then trim like this every time so that the ear canal can get air and breathe. Alright, now I'm going to do your eye corners, and you're going outside, outside, a little bit of the inside, and that's what you do. Depending on the dog, depending on the breed, the haircut style that you're looking at yet. When I was a newer groomer, I used to do this all the time. I would just go straight down the nose and call it a day. But if you just do this part, and I do a little bit more on her, a little bit more aggressive because she just has such watery eyes, and then I just leave this and I scissor it up and she looks really cute muzzle. So I got my comb, I'm going to brush the hair forward and scissor. Be very, very careful. If you're not used to using scissors and things like that to do a haircut, I don't recommend starting off scissoring like that. You should probably learn other things first. Scissor feet, scissor legs or tails or ears before you get into scissoring the front of the visor like that, just in case you gotta work up your skills before you get to that point. So you see how cute her face is like that? It looks really cute. Just look behind the ear. Lightly, lightly, lightly trim this because the ear is right there. That's where the canal is. And you don't want to cut inside of that. Her ears, you brush it all down. They can do that. Let it go, because then you're going to see the hair fluff out that was held down. And then you just go back and you trim those hairs that now are sticking out. Look at it in different directions, different angles. Sometimes you can work on an ear for 2 minutes, sometimes you can work on an ear for 10 minutes, and it just goes like that sometimes. It's always the fun part of matching left to right. What ear you started with, then you have to carry on that same length on the next ear. And sometimes it takes longer to get that second ear than it did the first ear. Remember to scissor lightly, so you don't always keep playing the back and forth games. Push the ears down to make sure they're even, because what will happen is you'll pull this one and that one goes up. You pull that one and then this one goes up. So you want to go ahead and make sure they're all pushed down evenly, and then look to make sure everything's right. Yes. Is it look good? Uh-huh. Is it right? Alright, now I'm scissoring the feet. I don't really have to brush up with a brush. I'm just going to go in between the toes, and I'm going to pull everything up that way. Because she's got such a low body, you can go lower on the foot. I say depending on the length of the dog is going to depend on whether or not toenails should be showing. Like with a 5 or under, I think that the toenail should show, because that's just showing that you're getting the foot as even to the body as you can. Whereas depending on the different dog coat and skin type, whatever, you with like the 4 and above, you want the nails to be hidden. You don't want them to be seen. See, there was no reason for that. She's passive aggressive, like I said. Come to the back side of this foot, catch this. Do not forget that bump there. Make sure you're just lightly trimming, because sometimes you can catch something and not cut and still like there. See? Like I'm touching the nail. So if you scissor lightly and you catch a foot, a piece of the foot or something like that, you can easily prevent from cutting the dog. From the back of the elbow, you have to be very, very careful. Know where that skin is, because you can cut the elbow. Now, would it have been easier if she would have just let me take the clipper down that leg? Sure. But, you know, that's a perfect universe, and we're not always living in that perfect universe with the perfect dog, even though she's amazing. She just has her moment. If you're not used to doing this kind of work, scissoring that up tuck there is not a good idea. Try to go back over it with the clipper, pulling the skin up and going down. But got a lot of years in, so I got a lot of experience to know what to do and how to pull the skin and prevent from cutting. Accidents are going to happen. No matter how many years you've been doing something, it's going to happen. And you just can't beat yourself up over it too much. You just have to learn from it. There's not many things that I've done twice. I've learned a lot of things from my own mistakes throughout the years, unfortunately. Just keep pulling that hair out and keep scissoring what shouldn't be there. I hope this song is not very noticeable on the recording. It's some 60s or something song. Alexa, skip this song. It's like I forget sometimes I have that power. I've got the power! She looks so pitiful when she sits there and shakes like that. Or such a pitiful little girl. Alright. So my tail trick with poodles, number one, I like to take the base of the tail down with a 10. And the reason is it makes the tail pop. It makes it look like a really lollipop tail. So yeah, just go around the base of the tail. Sometimes it's one finger width, and sometimes it's two. Depends on the body structure of the dog. And so then you're going to have situations where you got this really fluffy right here. Go with the thinners and blend it down so that you can tell that this is lower, but you're not really telling where the length switch came out. Always go side to side. You can do vertical in this area. This might be graphic, but you have to sometimes pull just like that to get inside to make sure that you get all of this hair out. I've had dogs come in where all of this was crusted so bad and matted so bad and they had an infection. So the dog is clean. This part of her body is clean, so you can touch it without it being gross. If you're still grossed out, then by all means go wash your hands. But this is a dirty job. Grooming is a dirty job. But she's clean, so there's nothing wrong with what I just did. Okay. So what I do is I take and I twist, and I bring it to a point, and then I cut at the end. So when it comes out, it's almost there. So now you just go around. Just like that. And so now whenever she is happy and she's got her little tail up and shaking it, it's going to look like a perfect little ball. Try not to overthink it too much. That's a lot of part of grooming, is trying not to overthink too much, because you're going to get stuck nitpicking. And I have a little bit of extra time, so I can nitpick on her. Alright, so her groom is done. Give her product. So this is the Quicker Slicker by Nature Specialties. It's a conditioning spray. It makes their coats super, super soft and helps keep it more manageable and less likely to mat. Mats are going to happen if they're still not brushing their dog. Alright, now I'm going to go behind with a, even though there is some scent in that product, it's not a lot. So I like to come back with an actual cologne, and this is going to be the Bark to Basics Italian Lemon and Sugarcane. Super, super sweet smelling. Oh, it smells so good. I love this stuff. And now I'll find a bandana for her. And I'm right behind the camera, so there's no need to be concerned about leaving her alone. And I think I'm going to give her some tie-dye today, too. Go. Some frayed fabric right here. Yep, so that's it. That's all she wrote. And she's all done.